like behind, so my voice doesn't come in until a little bit later.
Oh, you're good. Also, hello and welcome to the Eternal Dawn. I am Straw Hat Lucas, your captain today. Of course, you just heard speaking our wonderful, wonderful guest for this stream. I was going to introduce him last, but I accidentally, bad host, hit the button too soon. Yes, Pirate King Buggy PK Buggy is here. So,
What's up, everyone?
say hi, yes.
Happy to be here. Happy to talk One Piece.
Yes, this is going to be a very, very good time.
Just ready to get into it.
Oh yeah, so I will explain the concept of stream in a moment. Next up is our helmsman, one of the most gorgeous looking men in the seas. They call him the beauty of Sabaody for a reason. It is Knack Talks. How we talking today, Knack?
Nobody calls me that. But I
Everybody.
appreciate it. Every stream, the praise gets more and more. Like I start with a big smile, a bit of blush on my face, get this thing going. But I'm really excited for PK Buggy to be here and to tell us all about some of his awesome theories he's been talking in the community recently.
Yes, I'm very, very, very excited. Next up, last but not least, of course, or least, depending on how you see him, my right-hand man, my first mate, the historian of the Eternal Dawn, Mr. Kube of the Red Sea. How are we doing today, Kube?
What up? Hey, man, I'm excited, you know. Who would have thought today we would be talking with a former apprentice of Goldie Roger, a man that is a hero amongst many, you know. The breakout of Impel Down, the hero of Marineford. Yeah, man, I'm excited for the discussion.
Slander and hype more and more each time. Exactly, Will.
I get the hype. Cube gets the slander.
Cube gets the slander, yes. Of course. So, the goal of today's stream, well, there is no goal, actually. We're just here to have a discussion, obviously, as the title says, about what influenced Eiichiro Oda in his creation of One Piece as he has written the story. These will be real life or influences, and of course, pop culture influences, which we all know Oda loves him some Eastern and Western pop culture. To get the ball rolling just a little bit, I would like to speak momentarily on PK Buggy's, one of his more recent videos he did, well, you did because you're here in stream with us, with the Superman movie, and talking about the portrayal of the character and the hope that he brings, and how, Oda kind of ties that hope in with One Piece as well. It's the same kind of almost flavor of hope, right, in his story.
Yeah, I think so. Especially with the characterization of Superman and Luffy. Both of them are kind of these forces of nature, these symbols of hope, rather a little less so than like just straight up people, but then they also have that human element that grounds them and makes them enjoyable characters to follow. And I think it's really more relevant now because of the Superman movie, but also because One Piece is coming closer and closer to surpassing Superman in its legacy of sales. But I think that they're two of the most popular stories for very similar reasons. And I think it is just that emotional connection of hope that the characters bring, just very attractive to wide audiences, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love too, if I'm being honest, that because I wasn't thinking about this until you just said it, and correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember if you brought this up in your video, but Luffy and Superman are kind of two sides to the same coin when it comes to hope. But Superman is willing. That's what his whole bag, is to inspire hope and to lead by example, as to be this, you know, larger than life example of what to aspire to. Whereas Luffy, he doesn't care about inspiring people. He doesn't care about bringing hope. He just wants people to have fun, and he doesn't want to share his meat.
Yeah, he just is who he is, and if people are inspired, then cool, but he's not trying to.
Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of Luffy. It really, really is. So who wants to get us started today? Cube, I know you had some good stuff.
So, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna go directly with my what I call Disney piece. And as you know, many
Yes.
people know, Oda has got very inspired by Dragon Ball and Star Wars, but the third one, where he said that there's big influence in One Piece, is Disney. And you actually see in some arcs, best example is Drum Island. You have some interesting inversion with the Beauty and the Beast, with Chopper being both Belle and the Beast. He has a quack doctor. He, instead of being cursed by a evil witch, he was cursed by the doctor witch Korea, and you see all those themes, and everything. Then so like constantly you saw those sort of stories, and for me personally, you also saw that with Solo Bark. If you think in a way with Moria, he kind of looks like Hades, and and then you look at the storyline of the Hercules. What do you see? Well, Hades, and the way Hades and Meg, for her name is Megara, it makes you think of the team up of Crocodile and Robin from O'Hara. So for me personally, I don't think like it's to foreshadow the story. It's more like he was inspired on the original fables, but it's like One Piece style. He shows the darkness through goofiness. So he sees that constantly throughout the story, which I think Drum Island is the biggest case of it. And for me, I love Alabasta. For me, it's a callback to Aladdin, where Princess Jasmine of Agrabah, Princess Vivi of Alabasta, and you look at the story between Vivi and Luffy. It's basically how Jasmine meets Aladdin, and how he saves her kingdom. Yeah, so it's like, don't know if you guys ever PK, if you ever caught some Disney stuff. But
Yeah,
that's
I've never thought too much about like direct parallels, but I've noticed like the spirit of Disney animation in a lot of One Piece, and I also saw that interview where he said it was like one of his biggest influences as a kid. Also, I think the biggest thing that I always think about when I think about Oda and Disney is Gear 5, and just that whole animation style and like the rubber hose stuff, which is like very, very early Disney, like the Mickey Mouse cartoons and stuff. I feel like Oda probably was pulling some of his love for that early animation with Gear 5.
Yeah, the Gear 5 transformation is very reminiscent, just to animation nerd out real sec Cube, is very reminiscent of like the Ib Iwerks, who was the guy who did the original like Steamboat Willie with Disney, and Max Fleischer as well. They both are the pioneers. They're the ones who started that rubber hose, and to see Oda bring that into the story, especially with like the Looney Tunes-esque sound effects that we got with Gear 5's transformation in the anime, which it's magnificent, right? Every time I hear or see Gear 5 in the manga now, every time I hear the boing, 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 and stuff like that. But yeah, go ahead, Cube. I had to nerd out about animation for a second.
Yeah, I was just gonna add as well, like you take into account also, and me and Lucas have actually analyzed it, and it's some of them are interesting. Some of the Disney songs fit perfectly in One Piece, like in Pocahontas. The drums of war, the way they're used, and they were used where like the biggest moment, and when you think about Luffy, the drums of liberation are used to liberate, while the drums of war were used for the opposite. And then you think of the song Color of Winds, which for me makes you think of how they describe hockey, and the first time hockey was introduced was called Color of Hockey. Like even some Disney songs are very telling, it feels, as well. Like you could feel like
Speaking
maybe
of songs,
yeah.
sorry. Just wanted to add in on your point about the songs. Whole Cake Island. I think Bushido actually brought this up to me, but like Whole Cake Island is a pretty strong Alice in Wonderland sort of allegory, and that whole musical number is very Disney.
Yeah, not true.
I love that intro too. Like a big mom, and she's singing it, "Mama, mama, mama, mama." It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually, if you think about Whole Cake, obviously Whole Cake was the first arc that introduced Elbaf. I said that at the beginning of Elbaf, with some of the things we see in Elbaf, with some of the powers of the God's Night, it's very reminiscent of what's called Snow White. Sleeping Beauty. The sword, the dragon figure.
Oh yeah.
The person who has the ability to make people fall asleep, like in different ways. Like how people talk Egghead. Oh, it's like Wizard of Oz. Like you kind of see like this trope of Sleeping Beauty in it in Elbaf, which is interesting. But like I said, I think it's just for me it's the same way as Star Wars or Dragon Ball. It's like something that has influenced him to start writing. So that's why he calls it. Or I would say that's the craziest thing. Sabo's father. He's the evil character from Pocahontas, the one who wanted to burn down the forest. Remember, like Ratcliffe,
Mhm.
they look exactly the same. And I tell people, if you actually look at how Dragon and Sabo interacted in Goa Kingdom, it is basically the same interaction of Pocahontas and John Smith, minus the love.
Yeah, I
Two
always
people for the different sides recognizing it, and even the way Sabo was taken out, just like when John Smith left the island on a small ship, wounded. So like you see the inspirations. Yeah, Lucas.
yeah, John Smith got going out on that boat. He did. No, I always wanted to see more from Dragon for the reason that I've always had this image in my head that he may be influenced by Robin Hood very much. Get still from the rich, give to the needy kind of thing. But we don't have enough information on him. Plus his color scheme being green, like very. I know you had brought up this before, like Peter Pan-esque and stuff like that. Like, I think colors in One Piece are very important as well, and what their colors, where those colors come from, and why Oda decided that is also very, very important. It's like the zodiac signs in the admirals and why he gave them specific colors and how they correlate to those zodiac signs in real life and stuff like that. So I think paying attention to things like that as well is another good way to approach the whole influence aspect of it. I did kind of have a question. So we know that Oda is influenced by Star Wars, as he had said. Do we think that he used any of that for direct inspiration for Emu? With the kind of shadowy figure that lurks in the background, very Palpatine-esque, especially in episodes 4 and 5 of Star Wars with The Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, where he only appears in like hologram. Because the first time I saw Emu, that's exactly like what I thought. I was like, oh man, that's Palpatine in the shadows. Like, so I guess the question is,
Interesting.
what things do you think he's going to kind of tie in, or rather yet, have you noticed anything that you think Oda might have been influenced by when it comes to the creation of Emu, or even the world government as a whole? Because I think that's a broader topic to get on.
At least on the Disney aspect, and so we can go to a different inspiration afterwards. I definitely see a lot of the actual story, the actual Peter Pan, but the actual stories, who was a much more evil character than in the Disney movies.
Mm-hmm.
Using shadows as a means for it. Someone who lives on a land where basically light is always on. Basically, Neverland, the actual story is while Peter Pan lives in Neverland, and the light never goes out, just like in Marijoa, a land where people and the Lost Boys aren't lost. They're basically being taken, and they forget their family, so they think they have no one else but Peter Pan, and say they see him as a god figure, but he like which is interesting. And the only people who know about that and try to find him are the pirates. Captain Hook.
Well, it's wild you said that shadow thing, because isn't there a theory that like Nika or Emu is Nika's shadow or something like that?
Yeah, because of the eyes. When they go, when Luffy goes Gear 5, he almost has the eyes could basically become one together. So
yeah, that's interesting. Will in the chat said Siths always come in two, an apprentice and a master. Emu might be the master or the apprentice who took out Master Davy Jones. And I like that. I like that a lot. Especially with Gunko being the handmaiden of Emu, that could be the secondary to Emu, following that rule of two as well. Interesting. Next.
Star Wars.
I haven't.
Oh yeah.
Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Nak?
No, go ahead. No, I was going to say, Nak, I haven't heard from you yet on this stream, really.
I'm just thinking.
He said,
Yeah,
I'm just
well, I
thinking.
like to think there's a lot of, I'm just taking it all in because I don't really look at like pop culture kind of other media references. I get a lot of mythology stuff and like fables involved in the telling of One Piece. Like, there's a lot of like the Arthur myth. There's a lot of like early creation story in here. Like even real world history, like, we got Skypiea, where the the Nolan flashback is basically the story of the settlers for North America and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And Oda takes his twist on it and puts it into the story and shows us the damage in a different way. And yeah, I don't know much about like different other medias because like I'm a bit of a closeted fellow when it comes to that stuff. But I definitely see a lot of mythology incorporated here. Like I said,
Well,
the Arthur myth is all over Elbaf right now.
oh
The
yeah.
the fact that the lady in the lake helps Arthur gain the sword to become king, and the Merlin figure and stuff like this. So yeah, aside
Well,
from that,
when you had
I'd
said
like to see more.
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'd like to see more into the where we go with Elbaf because the Norse mythology references have been
Yeah,
incredible,
insane.
and
Like the eight-legged
you can
horse.
kind of predict some things that are coming. That are yeah, well, not like that's kind of on the nose, but like
Yeah, very on the nose.
even so much, even so much, just the way the world has been set up and the underworld and the sun realm, things like this. They're more symbolic references to the world tree and the three paths and things like this. And Zoro is another great example. I mean, he represents the path to Buddhism in his entire journey. And yeah, I see a lot more of that stuff. I'm not gonna lie.
Mhm. No, it's very interesting you brought up the Native American and the colonization of the North Americas, because I said that when I first watched Skypiea, I was like, man, Oda really
We had an
nailed that,
admiral explore an
nailed that
ocean, find the
interpretation.
native people. They were all got sick with a disease,
Mm-hmm.
and then the native people attacked
Yeah,
the adventurer, the explorer.
and then
Like
we
it's
see,
not a one to one, right? Like he
yeah,
plays with these
well,
ideas and puts them all there for you to see.
Well, not only that, but then think about it in the context too of when we go to the future of Skypiea with Luffy, right? That's 400 years later, and we see that in 400 years, that society, that wonderful, wonderful society, is in shambles now. It's not as concrete as it was, and stuff like that, which is a very, very
Hmm.
powerful statement about the plight of indigenous people everywhere in our actual world. Uh, it's really really well done, and I had said multiple times, like I just previously mentioned, that after Skypiea, I felt like Oda nailed such an interpretation of one of the more horrific sides of human history and used it almost to a perfect extent in the manga. I know people have their problems with Skypiea. I, for one, think it's a fantastic arc. Skipia is the dumbest agenda.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't. He's never trying to be like direct with this stuff. He's not trying to say like, "Oh, this
Mhm.
is the right or the wrong thing," but he puts in
Yeah.
these things. And if you want to dig deeper, like you don't have to watch Skype and know anything about history at all. But if you want to dig deeper and look into stuff, it's like, oh, well, this is kind of like what happened in Skype. It's like, no, well, Oda knew history. He knows history. He knows mythology, and he takes those lessons and those messages that people should know, and he puts them in his work because this is his work. He wants passed down. Like this is his magnum opus. He wants the messages he wants people to know in his work. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And when he like receives a message through, like you guys are talking about, media or through history, he wants to share that message.
Mhm. Wow, that's good stuff, Nick. That's really good stuff. PK, what about you? Have you noticed any like real world mythologies or anything like that that you've kind of picked up on that Oda has influenced or put into One Piece in some kind of influence or another?
Not necessarily mythologies. I don't know too much about real world mythologies, but
Mhm.
I've noticed a lot of whether you meant to do this or not. I've noticed a lot of ties to like religion and Eastern philosophy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
a lot.
Specifically,
You said it.
a lot of Buddhism, like you were saying, Nick. But also Hinduism. I
Mm-hmm.
think what is it?
A lot.
There's like there's like four pursuits of of humans in Hinduism, and I think one of them is the pursuit or path to pleasure, and that encompasses literally like word for word wealth, fame, and power.
Oh
But the whole
wow,
point of Hinduism is that
avoid that path.
you can't avoid that path, but also you're not going to find real fulfillment or long-lasting happiness by pursuing it. It's not like
Yep.
Christianity where it kind of condemns you for wanting to go that path. It says that it's just human nature, but it also says
Mm-hmm.
you're not really going to get anywhere by following it. And that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
Luffy's whole character. Luffy is sort of this beacon of One Piece's biggest ideas, and Luffy is a character who outwardly rejects wealth, fame, and power, and all that other stuff that everyone's chasing after. And what Hinduism ends up claiming is kind of the true path to not enlightenment, because they don't use that term, but like I forget what their
It is. It
language
is
is. But
essentially the same thing for sure. Yes.
yeah, the same thing, but
Nirvana,
it
or
the path to
achieving
that,
Nirvana or something.
that's
No, that's
Buddhism.
still
But
Buddhism.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
but with
my bad.
the point is that like the true path that it suggests is the path of being, of simply just being and living and pursuing knowledge and all that. And Luffy's not going after knowledge or anything, but he is sort of just being, and that is kind of his whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, just to touch on that, he doesn't necessarily have to, because I like what you brought up there, but he doesn't necessarily have to seek knowledge in the traditional sense, because the knowledge Luffy seeks is the world. He wants to know the world. He wants to see the world.
Right.
And like, there's a way to translate that in a way to that being its own knowledge, like of the wandering traveler, the guy who's seen it all and been everywhere, because that's a big part of like the Buddhist trials is like, you know, the journey to the four pillars, and then, or excuse me, the five pillars, and the five pillars are essentially the five ends of the universe in like a hexagonal shape.
yo,
Well,
and
the
then
palm
there's
of Buddha,
5
but
points to the world government's sigil, and then they use the star as well.
Mhm.
Y'all are kind of cooking right
Interesting.
now. I'm sitting here.
Well, the crazy thing about the palm of Buddha story ties back to the journey of the West and
Mhm.
like Sun Wukong's like claim to be the god. Buddha kind of laughs at him, and he's like, you know, you claim to be this all powerful. You go around beating people up and stuff. You do what you want. You have no respect for anything. Like, if you want to say you're the god and like you want me to stop claiming my power, I will bestow everything I have on you if you can touch the five pillars of the universe. And like Sun Wukong's like, aha, no problem. And he goes and he finds these five pillars or whatever. It's this massive journey. And he comes back and he's like, I did it. And he was like, you didn't touch the five pillars of the universe. You haven't left the palm of my hand. And then Buddha closes his hand and buries Sun Wukong under a mountain. So that's kind of the whole thing about him getting trapped. And yeah, like it's about the journey. It's about the search. Like the cockiness Sun Wukong showed in saying, like, I've already seen the universe. I went to the five pillars already. Like, there's nothing more for me to see. That was the end of his journey. So as soon as you
Mhm.
basically accept it's over kind of thing. And that also embodies Luffy. Luffy's not like, I don't think anybody here thinks Luffy's going to stop adventuring when he
Oh,
finds
yeah, no.
Laptail.
No, of course not. This is his life. This is what he loves to do. Weirdly enough, that's you know, Faust. I brought it up several times. I had that very successful theory on Faust. And like Faustian deals and, you know, contracts being made and things like that. I threw off my train of thought thinking about how I was right again. But no, Luffy also reflects Faust in that
Trials.
story, because Luffy, like you said, he's not going for knowledge, but his sense of adventure and wanting to know what's out there and wanting to see more always. It's that sense of knowledge of the world, right? And that's what
Yeah, it's like
Faust's whole
contextual
deal is.
knowledge.
He wants the pure knowledge of the universe. So it's very, very
Right.
interesting that that's something else. Like there's another thing
for
besides
example,
that. Yeah.
Nami read every book in the East Blue, and she didn't know the real situation of fishermen on the Grand Line. Like,
Yeah,
that
it's
knowledge
that
comes
whole-
from the adventure. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. It's the whole thing of what Rayleigh was saying when Robin asked about the poneglyphs or the Void Century. That essentially
Yeah.
he could tell, Oda could tell us all the answers right now, but unless we experience it through the story, we're not going to have the same impression.
understanding. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. We can be misled very easily just by what we were given at that moment. Like if really just spat it all out.
That makes me smile. I
Yeah.
was just thinking of Luffy being like, I don't want a boring adventure. Like,
No, he don't, and like maybe there's this idea that he did reach enlightenment with Gear 5, and there's a certain next level he's got to reach. I don't think that's the case. I think,
I don't either. That's his peak.
I
He said it
agree. Yeah,
himself.
yeah, I
there's
think
no Gear
there's,
6 or anything.
yeah,
Gear
exactly, and I don't
6!
think
Actual sun!
he even reached enlightenment at that moment. I think that might have been a physical peak, but there's still a mental gap to reach. And I also agree with that's the same thing with Zoro at this point of the story, and it would make sense for their final arc to be, to deal with their mental stuff.
And yeah, I think that's why there's such a focus on hockey right now in Elbaf, and it's why I think that the power up is going to be hockey based. Partially because it was
Yeah.
kind of foreshadowed with the ending of Egghead, but also like you said, it is at this point they've kind of reached their physical peak. It is spiritual and mental, and hockey is the
Mhm.
manifestation of that. So
Yeah, I totally
mean,
agree.
If you think about this, right? Starting this fight with King was much stronger than Zoro. Had the
Mhm.
hubris coming down on ground and everything. The only way Zoro was able to control Enma wasn't a hockey feat. It was when he finally put his own ambition aside for Luffy's. He always says,
Yeah.
before Wano, he always says, I'll become the number one swordsman, and I will enable Luffy to become Pirate King. And this time he says, Luffy will become Pirate King, and so be it, I will become King of Hell. This is him putting aside his own self-ambitions for his captain. Like, this is a feat that's mental, not physical, of the spirit. So I agree with you guys.
Yeah.
Like, what's missing is not getting stronger or stuff like that. It's the mental game.
Well, for certain characters, we can certainly see some growth. I don't mean to say nobody's going to get much stronger the rest of the series. They're just going to be a bit smarter. But like, there is a lot to be said about that and like how they handle situations. Certain characters being mentally prepared or mental fortitude, and we can't expect it from all of them. Like, you're not going to see Nami and Usopp and like Chopper all of a sudden be giving somebody the cold eye or something, like mean mugging everybody that walks past. They're still going to be scared and stuff, but they'll have their moments where they overcome that for the greater good, like they have been.
It's for me, it was more like so Oda stated that there's nothing stronger than Kaido physically, right? And I'm talking more like the certain characters or like the Garp and Roger. What changes them is not their hockey, their strength, is their will. That's why an old
Their
person like Garp,
Yeah.
could still muster a hockey like in his prime. He just cannot keep it that long. His stamina drains much faster without explaining because his mindset hasn't changed since he's been in his prime. He still has the same mindset. So that's why his hockey is almost unchanged. Obviously, physically, he won't be able to fight for 20, 30 days, maybe.
Just to steer us back towards the topic of the
That's
stream tonight
I
a
did
little
have a
bit.
question about that.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
one
go ahead.
second, because
Of
it kind of
course.
steers us back in the same direction. But
Mhm.
I've been watching the One Piece anime with my friend recently, so we've been watching it for the first time, and we've been talking a lot about Gear 2 and what kind of inspirations Oda had going into Gear 2. And I wanted to hear what you guys had. Like, what were your takes? Do you think Oda had that planned? Do you think he got that idea from something else? Where do you think that come from?
Well,
I don't know. I think he probably planned it maybe early in the Water 7 creative process. I don't think he planned it from like the very beginning. Similar to how Luffy kind of just realizes
Very smart.
what he can do in the spur of the moment after the situation with Aokiji. I think Oda maybe got the idea. The Straw Hats are going to need a power up. That's kind of the natural direction the story's going. Let me see what I can do. And then he comes up maybe with the gear system. Either way, inspiration wise, I feel like he probably took some inspiration from early Dragon Ball, if I had to guess.
I was going to think the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kaioken.
The
it-
blood
it was
pressure,
very-
like up in the blood pressure, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's opening your
So
chakras. You know
with
what I mean?
that,
Like
I
it's.
got the Kaioken thing. Definitely the call. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
As
Keith.
you were talking about it, and as I was thinking about it, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely where it comes from."
Well, what's
Like,
crazy to oh, sorry, go ahead, Cube. I've cut you off twice now. My bad, brother.
No, go with the Dragon one. I'll explain where I think where it started, where Luffy started.
I
Like
was
Oda started picking
actually-
up gear second because I think
Yeah.
there's a
please
clear
do.
moment.
Well, so yeah, because I was just
No.
gonna say that I loved how scientific Oda got with Luffy's gear system. At
Well, it's
first,
smart.
obviously he went different directions as he got up there in like gear 4 and stuff like that. But like, obviously, if he stretches his body to a limit, it's gonna snap back a little bit smaller and then expand to its original size and stuff like that. And like then pumping the blood through his body to move himself faster because his veins are made of rubber, so they can go a little bit quicker than most people's and stuff like that. Like, it was very it was almost like he picked up a biology book and like looked through it for a week and was like, okay, I got this. But yeah, go ahead, Cube.
So actually, I'm happy you said that because it fits on the on how I think Luffy, who was he's a bit absent-minded. Obviously, he's still a genius in his own right, but not that type of genius. Yet he was able to come up with gear second. And people always say that, oh, it's just because he saw how Bellamy works. I'll go deeper than that. I think it started in Giant, but it was in Skypiea where Oda like worked the breadcrumbs because I think Jet Pistol is a mixture of something that Luffy. The only time Luffy listened to scientific research on something was two things: the Jet Dials, which he was obsessed with, and if you look at his fight in Water 7, the last attack that Usopp does to him and with the Impact Dial is the same position that he is when he does Jet Pistol. So I'm convinced that between Jaya and Skypiea, he realized sometime before that he needed to give something to Luffy, and he was spreading the breadcrumbs. And I think that's how Luffy came up with Gear Second, is because he listened to Connor's father explain to him how Jet Dials work.
Well,
So he did not understand the biology. He thought of Jet Dials. It's Delphi, desire. He wanted something similar, so his body started to adapt similar to a jet because he's made of rubber. So he might have not have thought of like, oh, if I move my blood this way, it was more like, wait, the jet dials were this way, so if I do this. So he wasn't thinking as scientific research, it was based on what he was told. Because he has a Nika fruit, he was able to make it work.
Well, it's crazy with the jet pistol aspect too, that you said Usopp was the last person to attack it. Because all of Luffy's attacks to me seem to be representative of something his crew has done before, like Sanji catching his limbs on fire, and then Luffy starts catching his limbs on fire. You know what I mean? Like, he's learning from his crew, so I think he's like, man, I need to learn how to throw a punch that was as strong as that thing Usopp hit me with from Skypiea, that impact dial, that, you know what I mean? Like, I like that line of thinking of he's learning not only just from these battles, but from everything around him as well, how to use his devil fruit better.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
and yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I just that
No,
made me
go
think of Arlong Park when Luffy saw the windmill on what's his name? Genzo? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His hat, and then he does the move. But I feel like that is kind of Luffy's whole approach to his fights, is like he observes things and then he gets ideas and he's like, let me see if I can do that with my body. And I think that's kind of relevant to what we're talking about, because I feel like that's Oda's whole creative process, is he just looks at everything in the world and stuff that inspires him, and he's like, let me see if I can do my own little spin on that in the story.
Yeah, I just did a quick Google search to see if there was any big doping scandals in the early 2000s in Japan, because it's too fitting. It's too good. But yeah, I couldn't find anything. Whatever, he knows his stuff though. It's interesting.
Yeah. I would go even deeper. I think it's not Luffy. I think at least 200 candidates is Sanji and Zoro. Sanji's secret move now is Skywalk, but he was the one that had that got bad at Frankie because he was doing those ladders where he called Skywalk. And if you actually look at
Frankie
Zoro,
Skywalk
there's this
is
scene.
great.
Yeah, and there's this. I think it was in Alabasta or in in Whiskey Peak, where at one point he bulks up his arms, right? Something that he's seen Luffy do in Arnold Park. Where he just gets gorilla arms.
in Eni's lobby.
Oh, Eddie's Lobby. Sorry, yeah, dude, it was Eddie's Lobby where he seen Luffy
Yeah,
was doing that, did that 2 or 3 times where with Dark Queen with other
I got a
people all
counter
over
to
park
that
where
though. I think that might have been him watching Kaku do all the weird stuff with his Life Return because I just recently watched that as well, and Kaku kept doing weird stuff with Life Return, like making himself a square and like making his neck into a Z and a lightning bolt and stuff. And yeah, I think that could also be a reflection of that. And he's like,
for me
okay,
it's
you're gonna
both.
change your body, and I'm gonna make my arm super strong.
For me, it's both. I think the moment he first saw Luffy, it was in the back of his mind, and Kaku could have just been because I'm convinced it's not one instance. They can also see certain abilities that are say, like when he was fighting Kizaru, and then he made a new move, and he said, "Oh my God, that's just like Perona's food works, the Ghost Fruit." The next chapter, he does something very similar as well because he thinks of Perona and seeing Kizaru. So I would say it's both, Luffy and Kaku.
Mm.
It's not a one moment thing.
Right.
You know, but I think Sanji and Zoro are also candidates of they see things enough times. There's a Skywalk in Solar Bark, but also he faced with people using Geppo, which is Skywalk for the Cipher Pole. So I think it's like they said many times, and they know their body so much that at one point they were able to make their own version of it. And it's the comment of SBS, or when Oda answers why Shanks had knows how to do the divine departure. Well, he seen in Roger doing enough time that he was able to pick it up himself.
Yo, shout out the head cook of the Eternal Dawn, Mr. Vexus, the Lurking Legend, in the chat. We love you, brother. Hope you're feeling better today. We'll see you again soon. Yeah, I
so
also...
actually, I want to go.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say I want to go back on something in Star Wars, and so like this, you know, PK. I'm French speaking, and the French community, someone like 6 years ago foreshadowed the Kuma storyline in Egghead in a way by using Star Wars. And what was interesting about it is basically made connection of Vegapunk being Palpatine, someone on both sides, and hiding his allegiance with the other side. The Revs being designed like the Sith Lords with the cloak. And he actually talked about how if basically Imu and the Gorsei represents an evil version of the Jedi Council, with basically Imu being Yoda, an inversion, flipping everything around. Which, you know,
Interesting.
it's quite on point. It's quite on point because he talked about flipping the roles, and now we have flipping at Elbath. He actually goes in deep and explains everything, and it's like it's basically a perversion. Like the Gorsei goes to Imu to ask which light they have to extinguish. There's similar scenes of Yoda and the Jedi, which they have to maintain the light in this world. So it's like food for thought, you know. Like what if it was in reverse? We should be looking, instead of looking at people like Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, for the heroes in this story, we have to look into the villains in Star Wars.
If you say Darth Vader
really
was a villain, I swear.
No.
no,
You know,
There's
you
also
are.
the whole force, like elements of the force, and like balancing light versus dark, and how even in Star Wars in like the old times, there were times where like the Sith and the dark side of the force was stronger than the light, and there's kind of that ebb and flow in One Piece here with all these different worlds and like the Void Century and like the shifting of power, you know.
Yeah. And even to take it a little bit further in the Star Wars direction too, something I thought about before stream was how hockey and force could very well be tied to a similar power system because they're both from the extent of willpower. Both of them are extensions of one's will, and your will is what ties you to the force in that in Metachlorians. But nonetheless, it's an extension of will, so it makes you wonder if Oda did get at least some aspects of like Conqueror's hockey from Star Wars, especially
the lightning.
Yeah, the lightning and the people passing out. It's reminiscent of Darth Vader choking people with the Force and knock them unconscious. You know what I mean? Or kill them, depending on how he feels.
This is what I was gonna say. The one point that's interesting, and then we can go more into Star Wars stuff, is he foreshadowed Bonnie being the daughter of Kuma, and he talked about her receiving Satsang, just like how Princess Leia, the daughter of Anakin / Darth Vader, someone who was a man who became a cyborg, just like Kuma, she received the blueprints, which she basically foreshadowed the authority ship of the Pacifistas. 6
Yeah.
years before that. There's just like a inversion as well. That was interesting.
Well, that's like with
Alright, like to say.
Vegapunk's. This is gonna kind of be a hard shift, but like I was just thinking because we'd been talking about Vegapunk and the Pacifista and stuff like that. With his different personas and stuff, it's very reminiscent of the, like you had brought up religion earlier, PK, with the 7 deadly sins. Now they're obviously not 1-to-1, but like, oh my god, I'm blanking on her name. Who's the really thick one?
Lilith?
York.
Lilith?
You-
Oh.
Oh, York.
No, Lilith's a baddie, but York. It's York is envy. You know what I mean? But there's not a 1-to-1, like I'm saying. But it's yeah. I always thought that was the direction he was going with that. There was something else I had too, but I'm blanking on it because I said that joke about York. It's
Wow.
the cost you pay for a bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going, guys.
But
I'll
yeah.
think of it again. Yeah, Will knew who I was talking about immediately in chat. He said York.
Well, as long as we're talking about Christianity, we have to talk about, Kuma and the aspect of faith that's a
Dive
part
right
of his
into it.
character.
Mhm. Yes,
Yep.
please.
I personally like to think that he's not going specific with any. He's kind of drawing a bit from everything.
So like multiple religions.
Yeah. I just can
Yeah,
see that.
because the symbol in oh goodness, in Kuma's church, it's very reminiscent. To me, I always picture it as like a Star of David on top of a Christian cross because it has that circle in the middle with the points around it, and you could easily fit the Star of David into that. So a Judeo-Christian religion combination almost.
Well,
But what's
in
really
terms of like the
interesting-
inspiration, he's definitely drawn from everything.
well,
But,
what's
like how he's
when-
incorporating it is like through different characters for each one,
well, what's
which I love.
What's crazy though is all religions are based on one principle, and it's the sun. Every modern religion, from a mythology standpoint at least, not bashing anyone's beliefs, I do have to give that warning out. But every religion is based around the sun. Like when Jesus died and came back, it took him 3 days. In December during the winter solstice, there's a 3-day period where the sun does not rise as high as it does throughout the rest of the year. Those are the 3 days of rest, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of symbology to that. So with Nika even being a sun god, that in itself is inspiration from, like you said, Knack, all religions itself.
I forget, isn't there an actual sun god in like some sort of African myth?
There's an
I
actual
remember
Joy Boy in
Joy
Haitian
Boy, that might be
mythology.
it. Yeah.
Yep. In Haitian mythology, there is a Joy Boy type character. He was especially popular, like during the transfer of peoples across oceans, because he was a deity that was supposedly come down and free the slaves and bring joy.
Yeah, him and Nancy,
Often
the
used to
spider god,
dance, and he had a drum.
because one's the god of story and one's the god of dance or something like that, which I always found intriguing with Saturn's appearance on Egghead being a spider. Horus, yes, Vex in the chat, very, very good one as well. That's an African mythology right there.
On the many religion, I would even go. You even have what's interesting is that with different religion, you also have like obviously the Jewish faith, the Christian, but also the Muslim faith. When you think of the last attack he did to Queen Sanji Ifrit, that is
Ifrit, yeah.
obviously in the Quran as well.
Mhm.
And then you think about it, and I tell you guys, go look at you type the Muslim Antichrist. He looks like some design we've seen with Zoro. So basically, the same drip as Zoro in Alabasta, but with one is of his eyes closed, just like Zoro, which is very funny
Well-
that it's Sanji of all people who use that move when in that religion, the Antichrist has a similarity to how Zoro is designed with Zoro and Sanji's feud.
And calling back to Eni's lobby, he used Ashra for the first time, and Ashra refers to that, like the demon. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
I remembered what I was going to say earlier,
I'll-
by the way, when I was going on that 7 deadly sins thing, just real quick. I was going to bring up the seraphim.
Yeah,
That's
go.
what it was, which are also biblical creatures. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead, Cube. Sorry.
No, I'm gonna go even deeper with that. With like even the sky splitting apart, because in the
Mhm.
Bible it says when Jesus was born, the sky was split apart. Or you think of divine departure, someone with red hair, Shanks, parted the water in half when he defeated the Kid Pirates, similar to how Moses, who was described to have red hair, parted the Red Sea. In some stories they say that he had brownish / red for the region, Moses, and parted the Red Sea in that same way. So it's like no pun intended to my name, but
Yeah,
but yeah, it's
it
like
was intended.
I
He's
can
just
see
trying to
the
promote himself. Don't listen to him. PK, this is what Cube does.
But-
It's
no, but it kind of makes you think of all of those stuff, like and I think it's a core thing of really like the same reason of Buddhism, all of those stuff, like what's the reason of it, when you think about it, religion at that time, why it was so popular is that they needed something to believe in, something
But-
higher than them, something benevolent,
if I
and I
may.
think that's where, yeah.
No, go ahead. Finish your statement first, because that's a question.
No,
I'm
but
gonna
it could be the same.
propose.
It could be the same reason how they desired Nika or Joy Boy, because in the murals they talk about in one instance they desired a savior, right? It could be the same thing, when at the time Jesus became famous, they needed a thing, same thing for the Islam. At the time Muhammad became famous, they needed that figure. So I feel like maybe that's why he has so multi-religion, because he took that idea of when the people demand it, You always have a
Yeah.
Nika as long as you desire and believe it in the sun god Nika. So I think that could also be one of the reasons why he went fully on the religion aspect. It comes from the
Well-
core belief of people needing something superior.
Let me pose this question though. When it comes to these religious influences, do we see Luffy as a god in that sense? Right? Do you think that people would interpret him as a god in that sense? Obviously, people like Bonnie and Kuma do, because they worship Nika as somebody would the Christian, the Judeo-Christian god Yahweh, I believe is the actual name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't see Nika like that at all. And it makes me think about, if I'm honest, not necessarily that there's sects out there that think that God is the devil and the devil is God, because there is. But this comes down to the interpretation of how Nika is seen, which is a very prevalent thought process in the community, right? Because we've seen in Kaido and Rob Lucci, his enemies do not see him like we see him. They see him as a straight up demon, a devil. Like, so I wonder if that aspect of it will play back into the story.
Well,
I absolutely
not
think
to
it will.
yeah. Well, I think it does importantly because one of the main themes we've learned right from the beginning is that the gods aren't real. Like the
Yeah.
Celestial Dragons aren't gods. Anella's not a god. Luffy's not a god. Like they get worshipped like gods, but they're just people.
The whole story's
So,
Oda coming out as an atheist. 1 second, PK, were you gonna say something as well?
I was gonna say like something similar, but also specifically with how Luffy views his Nika transformation. I think it's pretty telling. The fact that he doesn't view himself any differently is kind of what the point is. I think other people can interpret him how they want, but at the end of the day, he is still just Luffy.
Him.
And I imagine that the
Yeah.
past iterations of Nika were something similar. They were just sort of their own people that came into this power and influence, and they became figures and symbols that sort of transcended their own actual existence and now live on as these legends through the Harley text or
Mhm.
whatever. I
Yeah.
do think that I don't know exactly where I was going to go with this, but I think there may have been like an original Nika that maybe would have been an actual god or figure like
But
that.
this is-
God type being.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I think
Well,
there may
there
be like
is.
where all this was derived from.
I've speculated
We've
with
seen
that
him.
as well.
We've seen him in the sky, and I think that's kind of what my whole point was earlier. is like a lot of modern religions are based off those really early religions that were based around the sun. So I think that just like in our world, in the One Piece world, the original Nika, the actual god Nika, is just the sun, and people referring to him as, oh, that is the god of the sun, kind of like Helios or Horus or any of those other sun gods. It's just a way to rationalize how the sun is moving across the sky so freely. You know what I mean?
We see
Like,
that in
it's-
Skypiea, right? With like the
Mhm.
snake and all that.
And also,
Exactly.
I'm gonna bring up something. Even though
Ooh,
and
ooh.
I'm happy that Nag brought up the old sun gods. Yeah,
Mhm. No, I was just gonna say, Buggy, that is fucking tasty, right? What you said, like with the snake god, exactly. They took something in nature that is not a god by any means. It's literally just a giant animal, but because of its size,
And worship
like the
it.
sun is massive, they worship it. Because of that,
Yeah.
they sacrifice their women to it and stuff like that. That is very, very good. I like
That stuff in Skypiea, I think, is like our glimpse into how it actually was.
Oda wants us
in the
to do
past.
it.
That's what Oda wants us to think
Yeah.
about it.
Mhm. So do I.
Yeah.
I think that
Totally
a lot of
agree with
people.
that.
I think it not only reflects the end game of the series itself, but also everything that happened in the Void Century and everything that set up this world itself. I have a video I'll send you later after stream. But Cube, I cut you off and we all went down a rabbit trail. Sorry, brother. Go ahead.
yeah. Because also, like, let's not forget when we're talking about those kind of god. That is a monotheist, the like Christianity, one god, right?
Mhm.
But that's the creator god. But before that, gods in other religions, like thousands of years ago, were just people who they connected to people who had power over nature. That's why I refer to them as gods. So like you had, if you link some old legends in some tribes, the person didn't have superpowers, but just he had the power over nature, which is a comment that was also said by Nami by Enel. When he saw her abilities, he said
Oh, we
You
lost
cut
him.
out. We lost him.
said thousands of
Emu-
years ago.
We lost him to the void, buddy.
Yeah, Emu didn't like what
What?
he was saying. He said, La Lucia, that man. You cut out real bad.
When Enel noticed Nami's powers, he said, blank.
He used that same comment. You've got power over nature, saying that her powers are superior to him as a god. So I think also like the Nika times, like you see with Buggy with Usopp, like I think Oda is also going with the original
Yes.
one person considered gods. Someone who's actually something that cannot be explained. That's what some people used to be. It's just the recent religions with Judaism, Islam, Christianity just have this idea of this supreme being, this creator god. But there
Yeah.
are other type of gods, and I think that's what Oda's playing around with. All
I
type
think
of
you're
gods.
100% right.
I think Imu is acting like a creator god, but I think Nika and all of them are proving that we're much older. We belong to something that it was before we were seen as supreme beings. They don't care about that. They just care about the people. So I think
Yeah.
Oda's playing with all the type of gods that it is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's part of the bigger theme here. Like, and he's not being disrespectful about it either. Like, he doesn't portray anybody that believes in any of this to be divine as foolish or as stupid or as
cynical
anything less.
or anything like that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's just showing like the way, like honestly, the world evolved and how people became like things did get glorified and did get deified that maybe shouldn't have been and such. But yeah, I absolutely think that's the main theme here is the perspective angle. He wants you to see all sides of every story. He doesn't want you to look at a story and make your judgment on one person's view of it.
Yeah. And there's something I think he's been actually playing around is, so the reason why there's so many there's Catholic and Christians, right? Well, people forget that some of those religions that parted ways was because some of them thought that the religion got too corrupt. And I think he's been playing around on those stuff in One Piece. That's why he's been showing corruption in different ways. I think that's like the main thing, or why there's I think they're called a Protestant. That's how we say it in French, which also comes from
Protestant.
Christianity, but there's Protestant. Thank you.
Yes.
But was rejecting that corruption aspect of the Christianity and the Catholic Church, and they wanted to go back to basic. So I feel like Oda's been playing around with those kind of stuff, like maybe with the different tribes. They keep saying the D-clans and the Sasso Dragons are sworn enemies, right? Gods / maybe the devils, right? What if because it's maybe like the long-lived tribes? You have the same information. Long-lived tribes used to live at peace until something happened, and they would refuse to live under the same ruling, creating two different tribes: the long arms and long legs. Like, what is Celestial Dragons and the clan from a common culture? So one of them got corrupted, while the others didn't. You know, like I can see stuff like that. I think he's been playing around with all of it. You know, same thing against Shadora, with the Skypiea and the Shadoras and the way they see things. Skypiea is all about technology advancement. Shadoras is all keep preserving their culture.
I think a lot of that comes from the way Oda frames just general information and labels within humanity. Sort of how like the government can say pirates and have it mean one thing, but to an actual pirate like Ace or Luffy or Sabo, that means something very different. And then how like family can mean like blood relation to some people, but to others it's just the bond that's there. And so I feel like Oda kind of explores that on multiple levels, and of course he does do it a lot with religion because of how it can be interpreted multiple ways. And we see that, I think it's going to be really, really relevant in LBAP, and I'm very curious to see how Oda explores this, because you have the giants with their very different interpretations of Nika, and then you have Gunko who has her interpretation of Nika, and the children have their own interpretations, and then you have Luffy in the middle of all this. So I'm very excited. I'm enjoying all the stuff that's going on in LBAF right now, but I'm curious to get to like the end of the arc so we can see how Oda is really going to address that stuff with Nika, because that's when I think we're going to get the most lore about all this religion talk that we're getting into.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I could definitely see to that extent. Yeah, it's like I said, this arc, those two last arcs have been very interesting on, you know, some of the inspiration. Why I get, because of how like, let's not lie, when you saw Kuba's story, some of his facets of his life kind of makes you think of Jesus.
Of course.
Yeah.
The whole cutting tree, having wood, you know, like a carpet like Jesus. The ways that he would take everyone's pain. It kind of makes you think the same thing, you know. And then in a way, Jesus was trying to be cancelled, to be forgotten, and they made Kuma forget who he was, you know.
Right.
So
Also how they kind of turned him into a tyrant.
Mhm.
yeah,
They made him a pariah, which is exactly what Pontius Pilate and those people did to Jesus. You know, like, I don't know how to say that and not get canceled by YouTube. I'm sorry, y'all. But you know, like
go ahead.
the Romans, that's the way to say it. The Romans, you know, they that's how they did what they did to him, and as well as they made him a pariah, which is crazy, because I think Oda's number one, just to kind of shift off the topic of religion a little bit, I think that's one of the main influences for the world government is the empirical mindset, whether it be Rome or Japan even, which we know Oda would have a lot of knowledge of. You know what I mean? Like, the amount of expansion and everything like that. Anyway, but when you have an empirical system like that, the government making people social pariahs or turning them into tyrants and stuff, that's like par for the course.
yeah.
Showing unprecedented self-control. Thank you, Vex. I try sometimes. Sometimes.
Actually, there's another thing I just realized, which is crazy. Even his opponents, who in that arc Egghead, the Gorsei, they all have Roman's names. I didn't even realize that as well.
Yeah, of course, they're based off
Okay,
the
so
Roman
what-
gods, which were speaking
No, I know, but I
influences
never-
and religion.
But we're talking about the Kuma thing. I've always thought the Jesus thing, but I never made that connection with even the names of the Gorsei connects back to the Romans. I'm talking about that thing. I didn't call that with Egghead. Which
And
is interesting.
Saturn. Who's Saturn in Roman mythologies? He's Zeus. Is that Zeus?
I think, No. I think Jupiter is Zeus.
Jupiter is Zeus. Who's Saturn? Is that
Saturn?
Is that Cronus?
No. Yeah, it's Cronus. It's
Cronus,
Cronus. Yeah.
the god of time, giving a child the age fruit. Okay, I see you, Oda. I see you.
Yeah. And if and as well, you know what? I'm gonna pivot a bit on the god stuff, and there's also another inspiration, because you talked about the Gorsei, and I think it's basically the 6 countries that were ruling Europe were basically when they switched the kings into the royalties into like governments, like the 5-6 great kings. With possibly with Emu, there might be a French inspiration because learning that my whole life, I see a big influence of Louis XIV, the sun god, the king, the sun
Yep.
king, the king that had control over everything. Who basically he is the reason why the first encyclopedia was created in Europe because of his antics. His father destroyed all languages, and then it ended with his, I think, his grandson Louis XVI, which because of his hubris led to the Revolution of France.
Yeah.
So I do feel there's definitely a theme of those like.
You're trying to get me going, aren't you, Cube? You're trying to get me
Yeah.
going. I see what you're doing. You're trying to get me going.
Get going,
And
then.
fun
Let's
fact-
go.
And fun fact, PK, and I'll let Nat go. Why I talk about Louis XIV, I'm going to tell you about a certain story of Louis XIV. So there's two stories. So apparently, Louis XIV had a twin brother, and when he was a child, so this is a rumor, and he got rid of his brother because, and this is actual fact, when Louis XIV was a child, his dad died when he was, I think, like 10 years old, and so the nobles tried to take over the royal family by trying to unalive everyone except Louis, who became Louis XIV, but they failed. So they faked his death, and he returned when he was 18 years old. He created a castle that's almost described like Marijoa, where he made it the new center of France. There's the same expedition of Eiichiro, where the knights there only answers to the King Louis, and they are keep an eye on the nobles because he doesn't like them. So Louis XIV would hide himself most of the time away from the nobles. People could come and see him except the nobles. He would keep them in depravity. And in one of the legends I was talking about is apparently someone had a twin brother. Because of what he went through, he thought that they would try to get rid of him with his twin brother. Apparently his twin brother was taken away, put under his chambers, putting an iron mask, and lived there his entire life. And they made it seem like but that's like they don't know if they don't, because of how it went. They don't know if look, we missed him.
He said his internet cut out. 1 second, guys.
No worries.
We'll hold
worries.
down for it until he gets back. Not a problem.
Anyways, I'll continue when he's here because I think you guys heard it. But yeah, so I could definitely see some fresh inspiration. Like this is very clear the Flamingo and the Orochi storyline as well.
Yeah. It's interesting. It really is. I mean, I had something for you, and then I tripped up trying to help out the homie here. That's like the third time this stream I've lost a thought. How are we doing today, chat? We doing good? I see Elson Jackington in the chat. We love Elson. I'm so glad you're back in the community, brother. It's been a long time since we've seen you.
Been way too long.
We need to get on VC sometime soon and cook, my boy. It'd be super fun. But no, I do think that mythology is like a really good, solid place to start with a lot of the influence that Oda has. I think that, man, Vex, you just tripped me up again telling me to lock it. Ain't no way he got me from the chat.
So we know, like,
Yeah,
I'll pivot here now because,
Yeah,
like,
thank you,
I
baby.
want to talk about potential inspirations for the end of the story. We know that Doflamingo spoke on the power of the Ope Ope fruit, I think, during the flashback, if not during Punk Hazard itself. And Cube generously brought up, the sun god, Louis XIV and Louis XVI. Well, there was actually a battle in history known as the Battle of Trafalgar. And the Battle of Trafalgar was basically the French and the Spanish trying to overtake the United Kingdom. And in that battle, we have a long list of ships that I think is very interesting. I just want to name out a few for you guys in case you're not familiar with it. But we got stuff like the Neptune, the Conqueror, the Spartan, the Royal Sovereign, the Mars, the Jupiter, the Colossus, the Noland. And then on the other side, we have ships like the Neptune, the Mont Blanc, the Pluton, And well, I mean, there's a few more here. I'm just flying through the list and just checking them out. But a lot of this naval battle involves taking back, control from the UK for France and
Yeah.
stuff, and ultimately led to Napoleon making his name before he caused his own revolution. So I've always wondered how, like, perhaps this is leading up to the idea of what Blackbeard is trying to do. We just seen Blackbeard face off against Law, and smirk, but be unsatisfied he couldn't get Law himself. And I'm wondering if there was something he was planning to do with that fruit in order to enact a battle similar to this, in order to take down what we consider the big bad, but ultimately prepare for his own revolution.
I mean, there's also something else.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm happy. I'm happy you paralleled this with Blackbeard and Hashinosu, because also the Battle of Trafalgar. Even though it ended with the British winning, they won by losing their hero, a national hero that died on that event, and they mourned even though. So they celebrated and mourned, which is similar to how Hashinosu ended. They succeeded saving Kobe, but they lost their hero Garp.
Cooking. That is really good.
I was like Nack's Fury on the Napoleon aspect in One Piece. That's why I did not bring up Napoleon. I knew Nack would bring it up. He's back.
What up, JJ?
And I absolutely think there was something to be said about, some of the captains here that were big names, because some of the captains here made a name from fighting, from sailing small ships, much like our Thousand Sunny.
One second, Nick. PK, can you hear us and everything, brother?
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yep, we're good.
Let's go.
Cool.
Nack, will you repeat what you were saying about the Battle of Trafalgar
just before he goes to Napoleon, I'll explain why I brought up Louis XIV at 16, and then I'll let him. I had 30 seconds left.
Okay.
The reason I brought it up is if you take those two storylines of how they try to take out the Louis XIV and the way the Iron Knight, similar as Sanji, is. This gives me the vibe of, if you actually look at it, Orochi and Doflamingo have the same storyline, and it's very similar to Louis XIV. And also Hody Jones, because Louis XIV, after that, was bred to hate every noble, just like Hody Jones got the cycle of hate. So that's why I've always thought, like, people talk about Louis XVI, but Louis XIV is quite an interesting one to analyze with people. And now I'm going to let Nat talk about his Napoleon agenda.
Yeah, I'm not. Did you say the 16th? Because this battle was orchestrated by Louis XIV. Yeah, Napoleon led the battle, but it was in the name of the king.
He was it's after the kings. 1805 is when they don't have a monarchy anymore.
Okay, so it was after. It was okay. So it's post-revolution from Napoleon.
Yeah. Basically, Louis XVI is the last.
Okay.
Ruler, and then Napoleon becomes like the emperor right afterwards.
Interesting.
When they lose it, yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm not. Instead of going to another spiel about that, I'm just going to pose the question: is there any other like big things you think are going to inspire the end of One Piece? Is there something you guys think is what Oda's building towards? Because, like I said, with this Battle of Trafalgar, we have all the names of the ancient weapons for ships in this battle. The names of like Conqueror. Law's name is the name of the battle. Names like Neptune, even though he's not an ancient weapon, he's the king of Fishman Island right now. Stuff like that. Victory, Royal Sovereign. We know the comment about the Royal Sovereign's one-day meeting being important. So, is there any other like stuff similar to this that you think Oda's going to draw from in his final battle, or his final saga, I should say?
I think definitely, like Vex said in the chat, Ragnarok is going to be a big one, especially for Elbaf itself. I think Loki will commit Ragnarok, but I think that by the time Ragnarok happens in Elbaf, that it'll be a necessity, and it'll be kind of like Thor in the Marvel universe, where they had to destroy it and cause Ragnarok to live.
Ragnarok is always a necessity.
It's a necessity, exactly. And I think that Luffy is key into helping everyone else see what Loki has already seen, is that Ragnarok must happen.
Sure. Yeah, no, I absolutely. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense for me, especially leading into his final saga.
Oh yeah, exactly, brother. JJ in chat said, PK, that you're his favorite content creator ever just because of your name. JJ, you're
Yeah,
great, brother.
Remember that.
it's all part of the agenda.
Exactly. Buggy, buggy, buggy.
One of the only agendas that is canon in One Piece.
That is fair.
Wait, I'll do it. I'll do it one more
That is
time,
fair.
so stream can hear it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
To be honest, I haven't thought too much about what Oda is going to use as inspiration for the end of the story, but I do think he is going to repeat a lot of things that he did towards the end of pre-time skip. I think these, like obviously Marineford is going to be like the early version of the final war. I think that Star Wars could be a factor here for sure, especially with how they all had to kind of like target the Death Star and take out the Emperor and all that sort of thing. There could be some similarities there. I do think also like that battle, the final war or whatever is going to take place in multiple locations that are going to need to tie together in some way.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I like the idea of Star Wars, especially like I never really considered the Emperor and Emu and Gonko, all that stuff, but I do like the idea because specifically with the Pacifista and how the Pacifista were created and used, similar to how the clones were.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. That connection seems really on the nose for me, so I could see something along those lines. Maybe not with the end of the Star Wars series, but maybe he's playing with something on, the downfall of the Jedi or the downfall of the Sith, something between there.
Ooh, Vex brought up a good one. He said Wizard of Oz, the Emerald City, is a myth directly mentioned in the One Piece world.
Yeah. He's not wrong. And Bellamy was the one who made fun of it, and we all know how Bellamy turned out when he stopped doubting himself.
I took all of my people up to Sky Pier and they all died.
No, Bellamy's like the antithesis of Luffy in the beginning, and it's Luffy's actions that make him like realize that he's been blinded kind of by doubt.
And now he makes flags.
But what he said though in that speech, like, oh, that's the One Piece or Sky Island, that's the same thing as like Emerald City or the One Piece.
Or El Dorado.
And well, we've confirmed about the City of Gold. We've confirmed Sky Islands, and like we know the One Piece exists. So, you know what I mean? The Emerald City, not just being a legend mentioned by Bellamy and also Vivi, was it? But the fact that everything else Bellamy brought up is confirmed to exist makes me think that it will. It doesn't have to exist in the present either. It could be something of the past we find. You know what I mean?
And I won't lie. There's a real life war or event that I do believe is going to happen in One Piece. It is the Boston Tea Party, where an island, a place that's a colony, well, now America, go ask Louis XVI. One of his last good thing he does is he assists the Americans to liberate themselves from the English. So I could see something very similar because we're seeing those connections happening. So I could see like a Boston Tea Party where like maybe Alabasta or Elbath, people who allied themselves with Luffy, are going to help them, ally themselves against the world government.
Yo, I just accidentally read spoilers on stream.
There's some similarities to the Boston Tea Party with how the Revs are using they're like targeting the resources of Marie Joie and preventing them from getting like food and stuff imported. And whatever Blackbeard's got planned, he's doing something outside Marie Joie, so it could be something like that going on.
That's interesting. And I did think of that actually, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll get like some updates on that after Elbath, because obviously it seems like things have kind of hit the fan.
Yeah, I'll definitely do it. I'm convinced Oda has this crazy storyline for the Revs because I think it's like the one group that he's been teasing us for, I think, what, 800 episodes, 700 episodes, chapters.
Yeah, and I mean,
It's
he
gotta be
was
spicy.
willing to give us a Shanks first time in battle before giving us the revs, so he's got to have something special.
Yeah. And the three revs that we know, we've got at least a little flashback. Ivankov, I don't consider in it, but it's Koala, Sabo, and Kuba, and let's not lie, those stories were quality. Like the Fish and Tiger, regardless of how you feel about Fishman Island, because I know I think the anime is very controversial if you like it or not, but the Fish and Tiger storyline with Koala is one of the best flashbacks for me to this day. Then Kuba
I
is, Kuba is like at a whole different level, and then Sabo, obviously we love ASL, so he's been cooking definitely on that end. But yeah,
Sorry, I've
so
been locked into chat, boys.
no worries, man. But yeah, so it's like, like I said, it's very interesting. And I actually would like to have your. I have actually a question. Actually, it is for everyone, so everyone take their turn. So we all have like a favorite arc pre-time skip, a favorite arc post-time skip, right? Let's separate them both. I want to know not as your favorite arc pre-time skip and your favorite arc post-time skip, but which arc pre-time skip, which arc post-time skip you love rereading because you see so much inspirations. It gives you so much analysis, kinks in a way.
I think for me, Long Ring, Long Land was a big one for a long time. Thriller Bark is always a good go-to as well. Here lately, I've been looking in Dressrosa and Fishman Island, though. I think Fishman Island's one, though. I would say that one. That one's the one I revisit the most and look at it through the lens of the current story.
Yeah. Mine is Drum Island and Impel Down.
Impel Down's always spicy.
Yeah, Impel Down's a good one.
What about you, PK, Neck? Which one you guys see yourselves revisiting the most?
Series.
The entire
Sabo.
series, is that what you said? Oh, I thought you said the entire series. I was like,
Me too.
No, I was
It's not-
thinking across the series. I meant.
yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Dude, that's a crazy reread.
Every single time he needs to like
Whenever I
research
get a
theory,
craving. Yep.
Knack's out here reading the entire thing.
I don't know. I love Sabo. He's one of my favorite arcs. So maybe it's just like the vibes, but I just go back to it and read.
No, makes perfect sense. PK, how about you, brother? Which one you see yourself revisiting the most?
I think just in terms of like outside inspiration, I feel like one that is pretty underrated, which you already mentioned, is Thriller Bark. There's like just so many pop culture references in there and so many references to like gothic horror, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
I only just reread it recently and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it would. So yeah, in terms of like inspiration, I think that one has a lot of really cool detail in it. Post time skip, I would probably say Wano, because Wano pulls a lot from like historical Japan and all that, and I think that's pretty cool how he integrates it.
See, that's one that I really need to revisit again because it was so recent. I often, when I'm going through my read-throughs, I jump around a lot, and Wano's one that I only hit every now and then, and I feel like I really need to lock in and go through Wano again with the knowledge that we have now, especially when talking influences, because I had already brought up like the empirical systems, whether it be Rome or Japan, which Wano's, like you had said, very based off of. I think it's one to definitely take a look at in a deeper light, especially even the cover story right now has made me want to really go back and reread Wano. And just because Vex isn't here, I have to say it. Hashtag 5 more years of the Yamato cover story. I do have to ask them, because you'd mentioned Thriller Bark, and it's one of my favorite arcs. Did you experience it through the anime first or the manga?
I experienced it through the anime first, and I remember because I knew going into it, I knew that Marine Ford and all that was coming after. So I remember feeling just like I felt the urge to get through it so I could get to Marine Ford. And also the anime obviously drags towards the middle as it always does. So I enjoyed elements of it, but I don't think I thoroughly enjoyed everything about it. But rereading it and rewatching elements of it, I fully appreciate it now. It's way better than I thought.
See, I felt the same way. I enjoyed it a lot more going through the manga. I had a really good time watching it in the anime. Like you said, there's a lot of good like little pop culture references and a lot of good humor and stuff in it. But
Oh yeah, the humor's great.
there's just something way more intriguing about it in the manga. There's almost like an air of mystery to the entire arc, and I really, really, really love it. Just because we're kind of off topic right now. Anyway, I do have to ask, when did you get caught up to One Piece?
I got caught up. I think it was 2021. I remember I caught up just in time to watch episode 1000 as it was airing, and then like a week after that, I caught up to the manga, and I've been reading week to week since.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I caught up just shortly after that. I caught up. My catch up chapter was the chapter that Luffy finally defeated Kaido. So,
Okay, yeah,
amazing.
my
Yeah.
friend caught up right around then too.
It's peak. So, any final statements before we wrap up here today, boys? Any final influences we want to throw out to the audience?
I really like Cube's Disney piece. He didn't get much time to really flesh it out for you, but honest to God, every single arc, he can tell you the movie that took some inspiration and put it into One Piece. Oda was clearly in love with the old Disney animations, and
Yeah.
for good reason. I think a lot of us grew up on him. He kind of started his journey. I was, One Piece started, I was about 8 years old. No, not even 5 years old when it started. But
Yeah.
I'd imagine that as a teenager, getting those animated films was a big deal over in Japan because they were kind of global, like, sensations. I know Lion King was one of the best-selling movies of all time. So,
You mean Hamlet in the Jungle?
I'm gonna and I stand on 10 toes when I say this. I'm convinced that Vivi's blue hair was because of Princess Jasmine's blue dress. It's the same shade of blue, the exact same shade of blue. I'm convinced because if you think about it, it's a
I think
weird
you're just
color for the
narrow-minded,
countries.
man. I think you saw two princess characters from Arabic-inspired countries, and we're like, those are the
Because, yeah,
same.
the blue hair
No,
was so
I'm
unique.
joking. I'm messing
It's
with
the
you,
same
brother.
shade of blue. Yeah, it's the same shade of blue. You know. So
Yes. Yeah. No. I mean, it is. There's probably some parallels there with Disney or with Princess Jasmine and Princess Vivi in some regards. I do think that Oda dips into the Disney inkwell sometimes, especially for like character designs. Like Caribou, I'm sorry, I know he's ugly, but he looks like a classic Disney villain, like the henchman. Or he always reminded me of an
Oh,
ugly
yeah.
Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
mhm.
you have that. Wait, who else? I was just gonna say another character. So I said Moria, right? Looks like Hades. You look at Esbat. It is literally Hades, where he has fire from his head as well.
Yeah.
Like you have a lot of those interesting characters where you see like, yeah, I can see it. And I never thought of Dragon as Robin Hood. I won't lie. Now that you said it, it kind of gives you the vibe of it.
Yeah, it's like I said, the green cloak, the steals from the poor gives to the needy kind of, or steals from the rich gives
And-
to the needy,
and-
steals from the poor.
And if I'm not
You know,
mistaken, in the actual fable of Robin Hood, the original stories, the reason why Robin Hood starts doing all that is because the love of his life, the mother of his child, gets ill, so he has to be able to help her out.
Ooh,
Which is, the
That's
agenda
spicy.
of Luffy Bob being maybe the former empress and no one has seen who died of love sickness is quite interesting.
that is very,
this
very
point,
interesting. But yeah, PK, before we wrap up today, any more influences you want to speak on, brother?
I would just say, I think Oda was inspired by RoboCop with Kuma. At least.
Oh, I need to hear
Probably,
this.
yeah.
I need to hear this before we wrap up. Please continue if you have more.
I mean, it's nothing crazy. I just know that he was big into like '80s and '90s sci-fi because like he's a big fan of Terminator and all that. And I just recently watched the RoboCop movies, and I'm like, huh, it's kind of a similar thing of a person getting their humanity stolen by an oppressive force, and they have to kind of their will has to sort of overpower that technology.
Machine
aspect.
side, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I never
think there's
thought
probably
of
a
that.
little bit of that.
That's really good, actually. I didn't see where you were going at first with it, but that is true. That's a whole point of RoboCop, is him overcoming the mechanical side of himself to tell his wife he still loves her and stuff like that. Like, that's
Yeah.
really interesting. I like that a
The
lot.
first the first masterpiece of Kuma we saw naked was literally a RoboCop of Kuma. So yeah.
That's true. He did. He had the little policeman outfit on. That's wild.
Mhm.
Well, PK, I really appreciate you joining us today. It was a really fun time. Even with technical difficulties aside, it was just such a good time, man. We got to have you on again. Is there anything you want to promo before we sign out?
Sorry, what was that? You cut out.
Oh, apologies. I was just asking. Well, one, I was thanking you for being here, but then I was asking if there was anything you wanted to promote before we end the stream today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, thank you guys for having me. I mean, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate getting to be a part of any discussion with One Piece, so it was great. Definitely would like to come back.
Yes.
As of right now, only thing I would promote is check out my most recent video on Luffy. Spent a lot of time on it. I think it'll give you a good idea of the types of videos I like to make. So if you're interested in hearing or watching more, then I say check that one out.
Yes, and we have to say real quick too to the audience, thank you guys. We finally hit 200 subs. We're getting back to the old numbers that we used to have on the last channel. If you know, you know. And I really appreciate everybody coming through lately and showing up to the streams and populating chat the way y'all do. Without you guys, it would not be possible. And I also have to congratulate our guest today, Pirate King Buggy, on hitting 2,000 subs recently.
Yep.
Couldn't go
Thank
to a
you.
better
That's all.
person. brother.
Congratulations.
Every one of your videos is intriguing to me. The only ones I don't watch are the Vinland Saga ones because I haven't seen it. But
Yeah, of course.
I watch them as they come out, and you're cooking right now, brother. You definitely deserve the hype that you're getting.
Honestly.
But yeah, with that, Cube, you want to sign us out today, brother?
Sorry.
Sure.
No.
No worries,
Did-
man.
My mic was all sorts of technical difficulties happening all at once, but yeah, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
no,
all
you're
good.
good. You're good.
We have a phrase here. Whenever this happens, we just say Emo's trying to summons you. So you're doing some
Exactly.
good work, man. Spreading the truth.
Yeah,
And with-
welcome
and-
silence in this stream today.
Exactly.
and with that being said, guys, we'll see you all at the next sunrise. Bye.
Bye. Oh, we said the bye in unison, Cube.